Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, when the new city hall is designed, you have to make sure and stay.
Sorry for the delay, folks. I called this meeting to at 6:04. And please stand for the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Zach Gainer. Here. Patty Burns. Here. Evan King.
Here.
Joanna Para.
Here.
Sherry Simmons. Here. Don Weber.
Here.
Matt Lyman.
Present.
Your council, ex officio counselor this evening, Katie Redding. Here. Thank you. I think this is the first time we've had everybody here in a while. So, good job.
Yeah. All right. Next is approval of the meeting minutes. Did everybody get a chance to review those? And does anybody have any comments, changes?
I just had one comment at the end. It said, I reminded the board that they needed to work on an ordinance, and then it said some other stuff. That's not what I recall saying. I just simply said that we had passed on to the board to change our recommendation was we'd be a committee, not a board. That whole other part that there needs to be an ordinance, I think that was the feedback Bill gave to us, but that wasn't my words.
Okay, I'll take that out and go by the recording, so I will correct that. So you can approve them with amendment. You can ask for approval with amendment.
Oh, can I have approval with them? Is there anything else that needs to be addressed regarding the events? No?
I motion to move with approval of the minutes with amendment.
Okay,
I'll second it.
okay, I have a first by Evan and a second by Patty. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Public comment? Oh,
I was just making sure it was working.
do we have any?
There's no one
online?
And I didn't receive anything prior to the meeting, so.
There's participants too. Oh, that was me.
It's just the city, yeah, the city's one.
So there's nobody on.
It was just me.
All right, we'll move on to number 7, unfinished business. So, I sent a message to Cindy today because she had mentioned that they might not continue the foundation. But they did have a meeting and they are going to continue to go forward. So we do need to pick a new representative to go to those foundation meetings from the advisory, our Parks Board, because Joanna gave her notice at the last meeting.
Can I ask why they weren't gonna have?
They were having trouble getting people to show up.
Yeah, they were having to cancel meetings and didn't have quorum and.
Okay, just is there not a workload? Is that what it is?
I think it was people's schedules that
Okay,
there was an issue with, so hopefully they've worked through that and they
Okay.
can move forward.
okay,
Mhm,
thank you.
mhm. Is anybody interested in being on that? Kind of an ex officio on that board?
If you need someone, I'm willing to take that position.
So it is at 4 o'clock in the afternoon usually.
Which day?
It's usually on Thursday.
Wednesdays or Thursdays.
I might be able to swing that then. Usually I get off at 4, but I could probably either go in early or leave a little bit later, something like that.
Cause they only meet like once every 2 months or something.
Yeah, they don't, the meetings are not usually monthly. They kind of average it out, it tends to be about quarterly. When they meet, and it's not usually on Thursdays. And
Thank
the
you.
meetings tend to run pretty quick, about 30, no more than 30 minutes.
Thursday is usually my most free day also, so
Okay, so Evan, you're willing to do that?
I'm willing to do that, yes.
Okay. Does anybody else want to throw their hat in?
I'll do it too. If you can.
Do you want to be backup?
Sure.
We could have a backup.
Can we send them both as equals, or is it that's for one person?
I think they're just looking for one person.
Yeah.
I mean.
It's an open meeting.
It's, yeah.
Right.
You can just go. Yes, so. Okay, so we'll name Evan as our ex officio and Patty Burns as backup. The XX. Do we need to vote on that? No, okay, it's just a consensus. Everybody's in agreement.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
And do you want to contact Cindy or do you want me to contact Cindy? 'Cause-
I will contact
Okay,
her.
because she'll need their email addresses.
The email address.
Mm.
Yeah, I can do that. Okay. Okay. Lori sent out this afternoon the revised, Jessie Mae's nonprofit application that Joanna and I redid. Did you all get it and have a chance to? look
I
it
do
over?
have a couple copies for anybody that didn't, you didn't get them.
Okay.
Thank you. If anybody else needs a copy.
So just to be clear, so it was great form, and then it goes to who, and then who makes the decision?
Well, that's what the yellow highlights are for, because that needs to be figured out. We're just
Right.
figuring out the rest of it. The contacts of the city needs to be figured
Right.
out.
The only thing I was trying to figure out, and maybe you guys can explain, how do I make sure, like, if we want to protect the regulars that use it all the time, how do you make sure you get signed up for each year before somebody else signs up? Is there a
Well,
system?
it's already stated in here that you can't use it on the event dates.
Well, but they don't necessarily know your event date or somebody
The
else's.
city-
date.
put
the
this-
city-
Yeah, we put the events on the
You
calendar.
say like, I'll always be the third or the second of a month.
Yeah, and this city has it on the.
At the end of this year, we put all the events on the calendar for next year, including like the beekeepers have a set meeting 10 out of 12 months, I think, and someone else. Anyway, the bazaar and yeah, they're all.
So that would maybe be the key then, just to remind, like, I helped with the food bank thing. So we just remind them they should pick we'll always do it the second Saturday of April or whatever, and that way.
It will already be on the calendar.
Not the food bank thing.
Oh,
The only-
no,
No, those kind of groups that we're gonna give waivers to, if we just,
where they're gonna
have to
reach out.
Yeah, they're gonna kind of have
Find
to
out.
apply each time.
And find out what date works for
Still.
them.
well, couldn't they decide they'll do it the second one of April every time if they wanted? Right.
But yeah, but they'll still have to fill out an application every year.
'Cause
The only
that's-
ones that
you
haven't-
guys do that too, everybody does it every year?
Yep, Patty sends us
Okay, that's
applications.
fine.
and-
I was just trying to figure out a way there to protect it.
No, it's mostly a first come, first serve, and you put it on the calendar and then you choose whatever dates are
Well,
available.
but we're saying we don't want it to be first come, first served.
No, if you read this, it states you can't do it during an already sanctioned community event.
Which is different, like, it's already reserved,
It's
like,
already reserved.
Does it say how far
Every
in
year.
advance you can?
for a community event, that's.
For the annual community events and the,
That's good then.
Item number 3 says, no fee waivers will be approved for events scheduled to compete against already planned North Plains City community events.
Yep.
E.g. Garlic Festival, Doodles or Doodles, Chili Cook-Off, etc.
yeah,
Does the city have a time limit where how far before the event they can submit it? Like, so they have the event and then the next day they submitted.
We
For the
did
next
say
year?
30 days prior.
Yes.
it has to be at least 30 days prior. They can reserve it. I mean, we're getting reservations for the pavilion for September already, so they can reserve it as far ahead
But they can
in
have
a
it,
year.
they can have it the one day and the next day they can just give you a request for next year at the same day. or Time, couldn't they?
Oh, are you talking about like a maximum? Like you
Yeah, it's a
can-
maximum.
I don't know if there is a
It's
maximum, but usually I think between 30 days and 180 days is like the normal, like.
Yeah, I wasn't
typical.
sure if there was anything for that.
I don't see a problem with reaching out a year in advance. Doesn't seem like a problem.
Cause the answer to Don's question, if they just do that, then they should just be fine.
Yeah, as long as you have a way to be sure that you're protected, that's great.
Just give it the day after you have your event and register for the next year.
Okay. I thought it looked great. I don't know if anybody has anything they want to change, otherwise I liked it.
Were we gonna put check boxes in this to determine if they would actually qualify, so the person looking at the form could more easily figure that out? But I think that was one of the
No.
things that
This is a supplemental form that goes along with the Jesse Mays rental form. So this is just for nonprofits only.
oh, yes,
But the other form has
Yeah.
how many people, whether there's gonna be food, whether there's gonna be alcohol, how long, how all that stuff.
I thought one of the things that they wanted us to have is make it easier to figure out whether they actually qualify or not.
The EIN will tell us.
The EIN and it gives the qualifications on here. Did you read this? Did you look at it?
I think, Evan, are you asking like, if there be boxes?
Sorry.
I'm trying to figure out if I'm missing a second page here.
Tick off for these.
No, I think it's
I'm
great.
trying to see if I'm missing a second page. while I'm looking.
No, so do we have to make a motion, or are we just sending on our recommendation to the council?
I think we're just sending a recommendation to the council.
We don't need a motion.
I don't think so.
I think it's great. I like it.
No, and the assigned contact would probably just be info at North Plains. That way we all get it.
So I'll send this in Word, or you have it in
Yes,
Word
'cause they're-
format, so you guys can just update
Yeah.
that contact as needed.
Yeah.
Because this will be your guys' form.
Right, and at some point, we hopefully can direct her right to April, but she's still pretty new and she's doing a lot of stuff. So that way, if it goes to
Is
info.
this something that if there ends up being a parks director would fall under their plate?
Yep,
Then figure out.
They would manage.
it would still need to go through the other channels.
Yep,
Yeah,
yep,
but that's
to
who.
manage the calendar
Yeah.
and things like that. Yep, that's what I figured.
They think they. qualify, but
Right,
then-
they have to meet.
So Dawn, are you in agreement with this?
I think it's great.
Yep.
Yes,
Joanna? Yes. Yes?
well done.
I'll come back to you, Zach, or Evan. Zach?
Perfect.
Yes?
I think it looks great. The only thing that's sort of scary is if somebody decides to sort of dig their heels and, well, you don't have specific criteria for what's. And we just hope that doesn't happen. I think for the most part, whether it's a fee waiver or not, something that's, and I'm making this up like. The Nazis of America have an EIN of some sort. I mean, and they come in and want to use it like. And maybe we just put a line in there that says, subject to park and rec approvals. And so we can squish anything that's weird.
Yes.
Well, you're always allowed to do that.
Yeah, and maybe that's the wrong language,
Okay,
but.
okay, that's
Who would have that final say? City council?
City council.
So, okay, so in that case, if someone did something, then staff could say, no, we need council to approve this, if it was something
Or even
iffy.
like, events should be in line with the general,
Mission.
the general
Well-
mission of North Plains and Park and Rec.
Right,
Something
but
along those lines.
you can't be discriminatory either, so.
Yeah, like,
Uh,
where's that line and
Right.
sort of how do we make that work so we don't get sued and we keep the.
Did anybody look up other, like, Walden Hills Parks and Rec, what their statement is for that?
to all the local. I mean, I don't know whether it's something we could put at the bottom that city reserves the right to,
Deny,
that statement.
Well, it's going to the council anyway, correct? Like it's,
No,
it's council.
It says any denial.
They can appeal to the council.
not
The council.
have the council involved unless it's an appeal.
Okay.
Mhm.
Sorry, I read it, but I didn't memorize it.
No, it's fine.
Anyway, that was only my single thought about that.
So what kind of line would we put then? Cause we can add something to that. City,
The city of
city
North-
reserves.
The city of North Plains reserves the right to. I don't know,
Deny
do
this
you- do you use the
application.
word refuse or
Deny.
Deny the
deny?
application, period.
Yeah.
And we'll leave it in the gray.
Well, and honest, we put that in there, you never know, council may not like that statement in there, so
I mean,
they'll
all
make
this
the
is about
decision
is
on
whether
this.
they pay. That doesn't mean they couldn't use it, so that's where it gets complicated.
It's only for, yeah.
Pardon?
Yeah, which, yeah, I see what you're saying.
So. Yeah, I don't think I would hurry too much.
Other than that, looks great. A lot of good work's done.
Good job.
Thank you.
I don't think you were at our meeting.
You didn't do it, that's not.
Was he? Was he there? I
No.
don't think so.
Did you have?
No,
Was this one of the meetings that was done in
Yeah.
Texas or something?
no,
Texas?
this was us at my
Oh, is that- oh, you're-
kitchen
oh, you're just
table.
joking.
Sherry's
Yeah.
kitchen table and Patty and I going over line by line. Condensing 3 pages into one.
On there.
No, you were not. The chair was empty.
Do you want to add that on? or
Yeah, I'll
do
add
you
it in
want
the
me to
word
add?
amend.
Okay, okay, okay. Patty,
I'm fine.
okay, so we'll add that line in. Do you have any comments, Counselor Reddy? No? No, okay,
Looks great.
looks like we're all a go. All right. C, under unfinished business, says write ordinance to change name from board to advisory committee. Include committee goals, how often goals should be reviewed, all parks should have a park name, sign, oh, that was my note. So, Dawn brought up something today. So do you wanna,
I was just saying. It's a little confusing because. I looked it up because I had time, I hadn't done all this before, but if you look up the current city ordinance. It already has the purpose in it. You know, that, what do? Well, we worry about the care and maintenance of parks and rec facilities. We're an advisory group. We do the rules for parks and facilities. We deal with fee rentals programs. And advise, city council and, public works. So to me, it's already in ordinance. All we're talking about is. And again, if the city council doesn't want to change it, I don't think we really care, but currently the only issue we brought up, Katie, was we're called a board. If you look up the word board, boards make decisions, and that got confusing at times for us. We don't make decisions. It's very clear in the bylaws and the ordinances and everywhere else that we're an advisory group. So that makes more sense. We'd be called a committee. But again, from my perspective, it's not up to us, a committee, to write an ordinance. That would be up to the city council if you want to have an ordinance that changes our name. Whether you decide to do it is totally up to you guys, but I don't understand, to be honest, I think we're covered on all this other stuff. I mean, we have actually, my understanding is when we did the bylaws, we were told we didn't want all those goals and objectives in the ordinances. We wanted them in the bylaws. So then we wrote bylaws and included them. And then actually that we have a third place, which is the Parks Master Plan that has goals and objectives. Right? So we have the general framework in the ordinances and in the bylaws, and then the specifics in the master plan. So as far as I can tell, we're covered with all of that stuff. It's simply the name issue, which again, we know we're advisory. If for some reason city
But-
council doesn't want to change it,
The
then
one that I'm looking at, it's strictly says Parks Board. So if you change the name, now would be the time to put Parks and Recreation Committee.
here's the question. We're an advisory committee. How can we write an ordinance?
You don't write it, we write it.
Well, okay, you
That's
guys
the
keep
point.
coming back to us saying.
Well, but
we
you have to
need
tell
write
us
an
what to put in
ordinance.
it. You have to tell us
But
what to
how-
put in it.
Okay, so
So like, do you wanna change your name to the Parks and Recreation Committee or
Everywhere it
Commission.
says board, you say committee.
committee.
That's all we're there.
that's it? I mean.
Yes, that's changing words. That's it, because the wording is fine. It says we're an advisory board. We're just saying we're an advisory.
But the second part of that is we needed to come up with goals and duties that we would like to see added. And this is the list that I sent in that I had originally sent way back when in the original bylaws.
Yeah,
So I dug them up and submitted them again. And did you all get a
well,
chance?
didn't the bylaws already get passed?
They did. These are our goals. We need to have goals.
Well, that's what we're going over tonight in the master plan, goals.
No, we're going over number 3
It's a
in the
goal,
master plan.
a goal.
This is different. This is our goals for, as an ordinance. He said it needed an ordinance.
To change the name of the, you definitely need an ordinance, but if you, I mean, if you guys have looked at everything that's in there right now, has everybody looked at everything that's in the, I mean, because there may be some other things you wanna change, and now is the time to do it, because doing an ordinance to change little things every 6 months is not, it costs
It's
us
a
a lot of
lot.
money
Yeah,
to have them codified, so, and we only send them in twice a year. That's our contract with the codification company.
Well, I thought we went through the whole discussion when we were doing bylaws that we shouldn't put all that stuff in ordinances, because I brought up when we were doing the bylaws. It's redundant because a lot of the same things we put in the bylaws are already in the ordinance. But I think it was Bill said, well, you want less in the ordinances and more in the bylaws, which then we added the bylaws, which is great.
but he had us remove all the goals from the bylaws.
I don't understand those. Oh. Why would we put goals in an ordinance? That doesn't make sense. I mean, the way, my understanding is it's a framework is what the ordinance is. It's just a framework for who we are, which we're an advisory group that deals with parks and everything. Then the bylaws, the actual specific of things we plan to do in the next few years is actually the Parks Master Plan. That's our, here's what we're gonna do. So we're kind of covered in those 3 things.
I assume the
think-
goals help define what,
Our role,
yeah, what our
they're
role is.
defining our role.
Or like, as you argued, we're not a board, we're a committee. A goal, having the clear goals would more define that, wouldn't you say?
On what we're supposed to do.
Yes, that,
It's very clear
and
and,
define exactly what we are.
I mean, if you read the ordinance, to me, it's very clear. That we're this advisory group, we work with Public Works, we work and we advise in relation to recreation, parks. To me,
So are
it's,
we just gonna keep going in circles on this?
I
What's
I
gonna
don't
happen
I don't
here?
see what's missing. If somebody wants to look online at the specific stuff, it's.
Well, I
Purpose,
think something has been missing because we've all been asking the question that we've been going around in circles for all these months and like not really
Maybe
getting to
something's
like the
not-
meats and potatoes of what we're all here
Or
for.
maybe someone's not explaining it
Exactly.
clearly enough for
And
us
that's
to
where
get it.
Bill kind of from last, and I think that's where maybe what you're saying right now, not the full explanation, we're getting bits of it here and there.
Mhm.
When Bill mentioned last week, he did specifically mention pulling from the goals that Sherry had already done that were removed, and that's exactly where the work practically was already done at, that we had already reviewed these goals,
Mhm.
and that's what Sherry added to this.
the whole thing is very confusing though, because when we did the bylaws, we were told. Seems like kind of an opposite story.
No, we were told to remove them from there,
From the ordinance.
Yes,
from the bylaws. So we removed them from the bylaws, we removed all our activities.
goals
Yeah.
and
The specific
Yes.
stuff.
Yes.
And
the
that,
bylaws are your basic meeting
Mhm.
rules to
Guidelines.
follow and guidelines.
And so now an ordinance is needed so that it gives us our roadmap of what we're supposed to be doing.
okay, and when you read the current ordinance, what do you think's missing? I read it and it looks fine. I don't see what's missing. Again, I get the conceptual, but we really just have to focus on 3164. It gives the purpose of who we are. Says we advise Public Works and the City Council on issues.
I have probably not updated, and it's the part out of the charter. I don't necessarily have the ordinance that he's talking about. What ordinance is it?
It's
3164.
We don't have ordinances that high.
Yeah, you do.
No, I just did ordinance 499, so we do not have ordinances that,
31.64.
that's not the ordinance, that's the. That's the, what do we call it? The section of the charter.
Okay.
Yeah, that's not the ordinance, that's the section of the charter that specify, I mean, there's,
So is that,
that's what you've got, I mean, it says, like,
this is the Parks Board, the terms of office.
That's what this is. Protector is scratching for. Yeah, it just is.
It's that chair.
Yeah, it's that chair. This is more of our.
oh, great.
Is it this work that I lost?
He always turns us.
It's back on the rack.
Lori, these are bylaws, more of the
That's why I
bylaws.
pulled out my computer to get.
Or again.
Are we trying to look at the charter? Ordinance.
The ordinance.
Is there? We can't pull it up on the screen, that doesn't.
This is better than it.
I mean, if somebody wants to change it, I'm fine, it just helps me see it.
Okay, what?
Hopefully you see it.
Oh, up there. Put it up.
Something, yeah.
City webpage. Need to do a search here for. Couldn't tell you what ordinance it is, that's. That's not the ordinance, that's the.
The only one here, amending the term length of Parks Recreation Board.
Well, that was the last thing we did,
Yeah.
Parks boards, parks handouts. Parks references.
There's a section there where it gives all the, goes through all of the committees, commissions, and each of them has a section. And the ordinances follow the charter, so it's a little confusing when you call it up.
We need to go into.
if you want to go into the charter, that's fine. There you go, now go.
Is there another place that would have been better?
No, I just know where they are, but you can search, that's fine.
Which one is it? Charter,
Yeah,
chapter 3.
no, actually. Did you do search parks?
They did not do a search for parks, not in charter.
I don't know, I can't find my mouse, so I can't, it won't let me do it.
Parks Board. Is that it? 31,
Yeah, those are the chapters of the chart.
But the chapter is what, 3164?
purpose.
Purpose,
It's the chart,
yeah,
we don't want.
Parks.
right there. Parks and Rec.
Nothing pops up when I search parks. Under ordinances. Same one.
Yeah, same way.
Yeah.
That's the one.
Really,
Park.
I just typed in parks and I got,
We have currently,
how
right?
many, 10 of them?
And the ordinances.
amending,
At least through the
Amending.
website, it's not coming up. So if I,
So that's the.
When it switched over to the
Yeah, that's the-
website, did it?
this is the only thing that comes up.
Rowan's been working on putting them all in there, a little at a time. Yeah, they only did transferred 2 years of stuff, which is really nice of
To
them.
me,
So,
again, the goals.
Can we fall back, but like, can we not go back to them, whoever did this? And hold them accountable in some way?
I don't know. I fought with Andy over it more than once. Gotcha. Because I was not happy with even switching to the company.
Yeah, so that's it up there that I was referring to, so. Is. I mean, that to me as a general framework is pretty good. Describing who we are to me. Because this is not my, from what I was told, this is not the document where you go into great detail. It's a.
No,
framework.
ordinance 447 is.
447.
Mhm. It's got this stuff behind it, because this is the detail of the ordinance. So.
I see, I see.
What was the ordinance? So that one's under,
447? No.
maybe I didn't ask the question right. What was the ordinance for?
It was. Hold on, and I'll tell you. Amending the municipal code by amending chapter 1.40 Parks and Recreation Board,
Okay, thank you.
which they call it Parks and Recreation Board there, and yet in the code sections, they call it the Parks Board. So
That was about 2 years ago. That's right when we decided to start
Mhm.
changing the name to that.
this was, this one was 2017.
2017. I have it.
And then we did one, changing the terms to 4 years, because you guys were the only group that was 2-year term. And that was obviously after this one.
Ordinance number 447.
There's
Is that
not one.
open?
I mean, I had it.
480 is the one that, amended the code regarding Parks Board member terms of office. And that is section 31.62. That moved you guys all to 4-year terms. And I think that is the last one that we had for parks. That's 480.
Didn't we have another one for changing the name again?
No, I don't think that's gone through yet, because I think they wanted.
That's
this
never
to
That's
resolve-
what
they
we
want this
should suggest
resolved.
to them. But we need to do more if we need.
They wanted the
We need to look to
goals.
see if there's anything else we need to do before we submit it.
I mean, I can see,
But
but
is there on that section that said the purpose?
if you just change purpose with goals, it's pretty much the same exact thing. Wouldn't it? Pardon? So if you just change the word purpose with goals, that'd be the same exact thing.
They're very similar, that's what gets confusing in the discussion, but
To me, this is more bylaws.
pardon?
To me, this is more bylaws than goals, what our duties are. And the goals, what I submitted are things that we should be doing as the advisory board. It's our day-to-day tasks.
Right, but is there? Yeah. I'm just not seeing when I read the ordinance what's missing. It seems like the frameworks, I don't see
You
anything that
still
has to be
need to
changed.
designate, it's like your job duties. You know, when you get a new job, you have a description of what you're supposed to do.
Right? That's what's already there, purpose.
It's not defined.
My understanding, again, I'm not an expert, but my understanding is ordinances don't micromanage the discussion. They just say, what we do is advise Public Works and City Council on issues such as We oversee the care and maintenance of parks and recreation facilities. We make rules for parks and facilities, just like we're doing today. We handle fee rentals. We advise budget spending. That's, to me, that's all good enough. Right now, as far as the nitty gritty of exactly, that to me is not ordinance stuff. That's the bylaws and the the Met Parks Master Plan. That's why we're going over that. So,
I don't know.
I'm actually on down with this one, that just change the word purpose with goals, and that's pretty much it
All we need to do.
for that. Cause that is our goals, is it?
Well, I don't
not?
understand then why Bill keeps coming back and pushing us to do goals.
Literally, just
So-
take an eraser, take out purpose and write goal.
In a parliamentarian to explain it, break it down.
Right.
Is it really over, is it just the semantic of the word that's in front of that there?
I don't think it's just the word. There were two things, two different things that he instructed us to do. So you guys are saying just one thing, yet Bill's saying, no, you also need to do your goals.
Oh, could we just copy and paste that purpose then and change out purpose with goal? Just out of curiosity.
Okay, I wrote something up. Don says it's the exact same thing, basically, that's already in there, so why would we need something else? So there's the question, right?
yeah,
So this is the answer that we need. We need to understand why we need to do an ordinance if it's already in there.
Well, first of all, you need to change the name, you have to change the name by order,
The name, yes,
but
but for the.
if everything else that's in there is what you guys wanna stick with, then you don't have to. I haven't read through it recently. Is there stuff in there about programs and stuff that you know?
Not specifics, but it says that we help the program manager,
we advise on fee
We
rentals
advise.
and programs.
correct?
It's in there.
Mhm.
Pretty much everything that Sherry has on those goals is worded a lot less and just point in those A, B, C, and D. Everything's reiterated in there.
Right,
All I can do is ask him tomorrow. I can talk to him about it tomorrow. You know, that means we end up putting it off another month. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you guys.
I mean, I think we realize we're advisory. Our advice is we should be a committee, not a board. If the city council says we just want to leave it, fine. I don't mind. And we're just passing on some, but that's up to the council.
oh, okay. Can you send this to Lori?
Zach.
Oh, can you send this to Lori? Sorry, I'm sorry.
What is that?
Can you send this to Lori?
It's, she was in my email. She was on it already.
I checked my email, all the time.
Figured maybe check on-
I said I like it.
Yeah, I guess so too.
Okay, thank you.
No, yeah, no problem, no problem.
Thank you.
I mean, the other confusion we got into is the word objectives that's being thrown out. Objectives and goals are often used interchangeably, so it's very confusing,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
Yes.
Well, they're kind of the same thing.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah,
saying you've got goals, but you need objectives, what?
yeah, they're the
Get that.
same, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. All right, so we'll just wait for clarification then. For sure, we want to submit to the council to change the name to advisory committee. But that's up to them, so. The other, I guess we'll wait to see, what Bill says. We can get further clarification or just. leave
Yeah,
it as
we're
is.
looking for clarification from our standpoint, but
The only clarification I want to know is why is he saying what we need to do it if it's already there?
yeah.
That's the only clarification I need.
I think the other thing too is everybody take a look at that Parks and Parks Board, the establishment, which I believe we did when we were doing the bylaws. Because to make a point to what Lori said, if we change it to the advisory committee, and then we're looking at here at what those purposes and what the membership and qualifications, if that doesn't match and align with being as a committee, then are we gonna go in back next year and ask for a change? So I think we need to bring it back in and make sure, and I know we went through this already when we were doing the bylaws. But I think everybody really needs to go in and really go one by one, that 3160, 3161, 62, 63, 64, and just double check that all of that aligns with us going to the name as a committee. Because if it doesn't align with that, then that's when I think we're gonna have to make a change in that purpose area or that goal area. But if it already aligns, which I feel it does, because
Yeah.
that A, B, C, and D is basically what Sherry has in the goal, then really the only thing we're just wanting to update is the name.
I mean, I took my time and read all of the bylaws, all of the ordinance, all the master plan, and nowhere do I see that we have decision-making power. It's always advisory, and that's the key point we're making, right?
Right.
We don't decide.
Bill says to table it if you guys are unclear. And we'll not about it,
Okay.
so.
No, you're welcome.
Sure.
Yeah, you can just table it over unclear information.
Okay. Table that. New business is review the Parks Master Plan, goal number 3.
And 3 is the natural area thing, right?
It
Right.
is. Mhm.
See, to me, that's the one that's our biggest problem. Because, I mean, I think we've all talked about this. Originally, there was all these ideas to put trails and things through the wetlands, basically. And I think the more we dig into that, it just doesn't work. It's super expensive. They wash out every year. You know, we ended up not doing the one that was gonna go from Veterans Park along Highway 26. That was gonna be $500,000. And I was in on the meeting with the engineer and he just said it's not really cost effective. Right, and the floodwaters can wash away the trail, everything, the bridge, right?
Yep.
And we're talking about a trail system behind that neighborhood right next, is it, do I say McKay or Mackay? McKay?
Mackay.
Mackay?
Mhm.
Right next to that creek. Again, I walk and jog by there all the time. It floods 2 months a year. So you don't want to put a trail in there. So to me, the natural area, we eventually need some new land that's higher up, right? We just don't have any
I
good land
think-
that's not floodlands.
Well, and it all depends, because if that road ends up going through, then they'll need paths and stuff in there, right, Dustin?
They'll need what?
Paths.
Paths. I mean,
If the
it would-
road goes through, is it Pacific?
Pacific?
Push through?
the
Or,
long range plan would be to extend Pacific to Sunset Ridge. That would be the long range plan. And if there is the ability to put any trails or pathways, that, yeah, we would have to do that. But that would also require a bridge to cross Mackay Creek.
I mean, there'd be a bridge there, but I guess I'm one of the ones, I mean, I've tried to walk quite a bit of that and I just don't see where it works, you know, and even the cities had issues wondering if they should have even taken on the land because the trees fall over and then they have to pay to clean them up. It's just not very usable land because of the flooding.
but you're tied into that already, having to take care of part of that.
Yes, we have
Yes.
to take care of part of it. And
Mhm.
also there's other aspects of acquiring land that is like that. You know, for example, there's, you know, some mitigation that we can use if we take on land, even though if it's unusable, we could use it for stormwater improvements and other thing. It might not necessarily be a park improvement, but if we do improvements in the future, we might be able to add a trail or a boardwalk if we need to. So there's like that possibility of doing things like that.
I mean, I'm a big fan of eventually having nature trails through the forest. I just don't see we have any of the correct forest right now. You know, which is why some of us have pushed more to take on some land north or go out. Around the lake, all that, that gives us more kind of some nature stuff.
Well, I don't see there's anything wrong with keeping
I would,
number one.
yeah, one's good. Pardon?
That's nothing.
And number two needs to stay. Mhm.
Can I ask a question?
Yes,
So when I was reading that, I was really confused between flood prone areas and areas that are flood prone as natural areas. What is the natural? The wording just was weird to me.
the natural area, correct me if I'm wrong, Dustin, is like the one behind the dog park.
Yeah, the
That's
wetlands that we
all-
can't do anything
It's all
with
natural.
because of clean
We
water.
can't go in and do any improvements on it at all. Um,
Versus flood prone areas.
mhm.
Which we own the property like behind what you guys were just talking about, and that's flood
Where the-
prone area, but Clean Water Services doesn't have any effect on, right?
Where the walking bridge is,
Yeah.
that sometimes can flood,
Yes,
come up and flood. So
It's flooded.
that's more of a flood
yeah.
area,
Okay,
not a natural reserve
Mhm.
type area.
okay.
I don't see anything that needs to change.
Just, yeah, it's fine.
I think it's fine, right?
Yeah,
I agree.
I
You
assume
all agree?
that we're still managing the vegetation and all that, but the city works.
Yeah.
I agree, because even with Bryn Hill, when you go down this, like, you know, they did keep little areas of natural areas and a preservation.
Yeah.
And the flood, things to do that, so it's an ongoing continuing thing, that's,
Yes.
so there's nothing to really update or change.
Right.
Sure.
I would ask, Dustin, since you're here, is there something that you think is missing? Since you're kind of head of that department.
I don't see anything that is missing right now. The only other thing, there's kind of a fine line between what is like a park and a natural area and what is something that we can use for future public improvement. And that kind of all gets really gray. There's plenty of areas that we could take in and be a natural area and be a public improvement in the future, but we can also make it a park. So there's a lot of things that we can do. And there's quite a few areas in town, like along Mackay Creek, where we could potentially do that and bring it in as an area and potentially make a trail system of some sort if we find the proper way to do that, or the proper way of, funding it. Because there's also lots of different funding mechanisms out there. There's grants that's like in the millions of dollars for projects like this. But then again, there's the maintenance that goes along with it. Those grants don't cover the maintenance. So those are things that we have to take into consideration.
I was looking at the new budget that's coming up, and if I read it right, it looked like there was a thing in there that said the system development monies, $1 million. It said trails.
We'll have to talk about the budget in this meeting.
And is that
I mean,
related to something like this?
From the 2023 to 25 budget?
No, for this.
The new one.
It's a budget item.
Well, you haven't talked about it in the meeting with.
I wouldn't think
So,
so.
no, I mean.
I wouldn't think so. It's just proposed at this
It's-
point.
yeah, it's
So,
It's a proposal and there are a lot of things that need to be done to design it. And sometimes the design aspect is pretty expensive in itself.
But that money for trails and stuff that maybe goes in these natural areas?
Potentially, yes.
Okay.
so we're all in agreement that this, number 3 is good.
Yeah, I'm happy with all four parts of it.
Okay. Well,
I have a request.
pardon?
I have a request.
Yes.
So like from Dustin from the group, is it possible to see, Dustin, some of those areas that you're talking about, like that, at one of our next meetings? Like a map of potential areas, potential spaces that you're talking about, that we could potentially maybe make a trail or a park area or something like that to kind of just visually see it and go through it and kind of, that we can kind of forecast maybe
It's
future
in,
options or goals.
it's in the Parks Master Plan and it's been in there for a while. If you
Yeah.
want to look at where they're at. If you want to look specifically at McKay Creek,
It's the Ghost Creek and the Creek.
yeah, but there's like actual projects back here. So like here,
Yeah,
this was made, what, 2018, I think? And that was the plan, like this green area was going to be some type of trail.
okay,
And this is Pacific right here.
yep,
I'm making sure I'm sharing this with the video as well. Yeah, Pacific, the idea for a long-term plan, if this ever does become North Plains, is that that Pacific would continue all the way through somehow.
okay,
And then a trail system or something would be kind of follow along the creek somehow.
okay.
You know, just kind of like Bryn Hill, not Bryn Hill, but like in Bethany or something like that. It's the kind of idea.
Like some sort of like a paved. It's just like people like ride bikes and run. kind of thing? Okay,
That would be the idea, but you cannot pave in a floodplain.
okay.
You can, like, even my
Like a
crew,
berm?
we can go and the only thing we cannot do is we cannot like, tear down trees. Like if they're like bushes or whatever,
Sure,
we can go in there and we can create any type of path that we want, put mulch down. But as long as we do not put like a paved surface, or an impermeable, surface, we can't do that.
okay,
But like even in these areas in McKay Creek that flood probably 6 months out of the year, the other 6 months of the year, you could potentially have a seasonal trail. I mean, there's seasonal trails all around, you know, Washington County that
Yeah.
we could potentially use that.
And when we proposed that, that's when the neighborhood homeowners came and screamed at us.
And it sounds like there's a long history with that. Yes, even though this has been part of our master plan since what, 2018?
okay,
And so I think that was something that we need to make sure that we're on the same page as any new developer. Because even on the plans itself, there was an easement given to the cities. So we could have put a trail back there. But then there was an uproar from the community that they didn't want it, even though that was part of the plan to go, it just wasn't advertised by.
Yeah, they were not advised when they bought their property, their home.
Yeah.
That this was a potential trail going through and they did not like it.
Yeah,
But that's up to the homeowner.
I
I'm
agree.
sorry.
Actually,
That's-
it was up to the real estate agent, I believe.
Well, it's up to the
Yeah,
homeowner to
due
do their
diligence
homework.
is.
Yeah, they need to be
Whoever-
searching out what's gonna
Purchasing.
happen in their.
Well, but we
area.
also, yes, it was just, I met with Andy and an engineer and we were looking over all that land. It's extremely expensive to have a trail system that floods 6 months a year because it tends to wash out. The other problem is the trees destabilize, they fall. The overall feeling was, it just wasn't a good place for a trail. It wasn't cost effective. You know, we're getting much farther on sidewalks, the paved trail, things that you can use year round. There's better places to spend money, basically.
Yeah, and
I
that's,
agree.
that's something that, you know, we kind of need to decide as a parks board is, you know, do we want those trails? Because we have a lot of SDC funds that we need to spend on some type of parks or trail, that's just sitting there. But we can't use that for maintenance. It has to be for, like a brand new improvement of some sort.
Could we use it like on this building?
No, we cannot.
But it says,
That's an improvement. It has to be for like a new improvement of a park,
Yeah,
like putting in a brand new park or a brand new
Yeah,
trail
you can't
system.
make improvement any.
but it said some of the SDCs were spent on the Public Works building.
That is completely different for expanding capacity, and there is a lot of legal.
Mhm.
There are ways that you can do that, because the Public Works facility is not a existing facility, is
It
a
was brand
brand new
new.
facility, and so they were able to use the SDCs to provide something that was brand new. So we cannot use those SDCs for here, but we can use them to build a new park or to purchase land for a new park, things like that. But we cannot use any of that money for maintenance. So if we do decide we wanted to build a $1 million trail, we
Yeah.
have to keep into account that how much is it going to cost to maintain that trail a year?
Sure.
The other thing that we need to take into account is that there's some areas around McKay Creek where we already are obligated to take care of and maintain. And I need to make a trail there anyway. Basically a maintenance trail, and it's gonna have to, like, we can easily double that as a walking trail for half the year, because I have to do it anyway.
But we could build something new, you're saying?
Yes.
So. Can we make amendments then? Like, based on what you're saying, is the master plan, can we make amendments to it at all, or is it up for like revision and a certain point where we can go through it again as a group and plan, like for some of this, like if we.
This is something that is planned for this biennium. We were waiting on doing the master plan for this, because the UGB was happening.
Okay,
Or the UGB was under that process, and we could not come up with a new master plan. We cannot come up with a master plan for basically anything
Okay.
until that UGB process was finished. So
okay,
we're stuck in limbo there.
that's okay.
But we can, right now that we've gotten guidance that, you know, the UGB is not happening, we can push forward with what information that we have. But then again, you know, we don't want to be doing a master plan every year, you know, kind of thing.
No, for sure.
Like the last one, this was in 2018, but we're kind of there.
Okay.
Hopefully that makes sense.
Well, and we're not doing anything with the UGB. Is there anything that has a current areas that can be built upon for something that can go under Parks and Rec
That was gonna be my next question.
umbrella?
Is this like, I don't know if we're still, if that would be a new item.
It's a new item, but, it could be under our board and our staff comments and discussion.
And then, well, and it goes kind of with the master plan that we're talking about.
If we're talking about specifically like natural areas, I mean, there's other areas like the Vern Galloway Park. I mean, it's down there. There's lots of places where we could potentially put another trail like we were talking about. If you want to look into this a little bit more, Vern Galloway Park is it's basically the tree line right there. This entire property, this is where the memorial is
Yeah.
with the flag.
Between there
This
and the-
entire property right here does not belong to the city, which a lot of people that I have talked to in the past confuse that as city property. That is not city property, that is owned by an individual in town.
Mhm.
And that is a commercial zone property, so
Right.
we cannot do anything with that.
Is that where that car wash was gonna go at one time? Is that
There's
right?
been a lot of ideas.
Yeah, there's been a lot of different.
The problem with this area is part of it is also in the flood zone, and they can't do any improvements in there. And so that kind of limits
What can go?
what can go in there. But down here in the tree line, obviously, it kind of floods. It'd be nice to be able to connect all these different things. Like a feasibility study on some of these things, which I think that's what happened over here with the whole Ghost Creek.
We're going the other side.
Yeah. I mean, we could still look at other alternatives, because I think there was a plan that was presented, but we didn't look at like, hey, what can we do? right there. And that's something that maybe we can put into our master plan is more research and where can we do things? Where can we put parks? I know, for example, Pacific Purple Park is now the Pacific Dog Park. I spent very little money on that because I knew the area is in a floodplain and we can't, it would take a lot of money to restore that area. And there is I forget what the actual term is called, but it's like a this for that. If we have to have land somewhere else. If we decided that we wanted to build upon that land there, we have to have land elsewhere to basically mitigate that. I forget the actual term for that. My
Land
apologies.
exchange or something like
Yeah,
that.
it's like, it's something like that. And I actually have it on the webpage of what the actual term is, but that would actually be very costly and then we'd have to like purchase land elsewhere. And it was not effective. But like the whole dog park idea right there was like, I want people to notice, like it was more of a pilot program. Can we even do it? And that's why there was like very little funds that was spent on that. Are there other places that we can put a dog park in town? That's something that we can do, maybe a study. Because, you know, maybe that's not the best place for that. Maybe we need to keep that fenced off right there. Because it's a wetland. I mean, there's a lot of things that we can do. Is there a place for another playground that's needed? I know the south side of between the memorial and City Hall, there's hardly any park space and there's no playgrounds. That's something that we need to address. I mean, we have a park over here off of 324, I think, Louis Wentz Park. Is that it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, could we put a playground out there? Is that the best place for a playground? You know, do we want to spend $200,000 on upgrading that and no one uses it?
If you get rid of the business there,
There's a
somebody might
rumor
use it.
that they're moving out.
They are,
Somebody told me they were, I don't know if it's true.
Yeah,
it would clean the area up, that's for sure.
that's the first I've heard of any of that.
Mm.
But yeah, there's a lot of things that we can do, studies for where's the best place to put a park. More than anything. I have heard a suggestion, of the Sunset, the only park in Sunset Ridge that the city maintains, the Sunset Ridge Park over here. I have heard a suggestion, well, what about that big field that no one uses because everybody uses the school as the field? Why don't we use that as a dog park? That could be something that we could explore in the future. I don't know what the community uproar will be about that. Some people want it, some people don't. So these are the kind of things that we need to look into is like, we have very limited space in town. And if we wanted to buy property, it's not cheap, like
Right.
that commercial area, not cheap. It's an area where is anticipated to have a lot of future business if everything.
There's a giant piece of land, but it's been hard to get clear answers on Hillcrest. On the way down to that business, what's the name of the business by the,
Oh, Jewett Cameron,
yeah, so it's
Oh.
the super fun.
that's untouchable.
Yeah, that's
No, that's
the
actually,
railroad owns it and they won't,
that's
but
not actually what we heard from a different source. They said it's been remediated. So they've added, cleaned it and put 5 feet of new
Oh.
dirt on it. And they said, if you're not digging that, in theory, you could use it. So if we just planted grass, maybe.
they flat out
They
said
said
no, that they may have plans for it. They don't wanna risk letting anybody else put something even temporarily. This is the railroad.
Has anybody recently asked them if they'd sell or?
They won't.
The
No.
last I.
No, but they won't.
Last I'd heard about it was probably about 2 years ago, and I haven't looked into it.
I mean, it's worth looking into, because the other odd part is that. I'm surprised they never paid anything out since they own the land that contaminated everything. Which is kind of interesting, but anyway, that's where
I
it's
don't
being
think that.
wasted now. It'd be nice to know.
I wouldn't let my child there.
Pardon?
I would,
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
So one more question. Stop.
Yes.
But, do we have any space on there, potential areas for large parks? Like, is there
In our
anything
current, no.
in our
not.
current city at all? Everything's just real small, like we're talking trails and kind of more or less unusable areas. Is there any carve out for anything bigger?
So the only areas that we really have are the Glencoe Opportunity Area, but that's not gonna become a park. If, you know, we can get an anchor store in there, that would be a commercial area. And so that's like the only big area that we have. All the other areas are mostly like already accounted for. Like,
Okay.
we have 5 Star in here where, they have plans. We don't know what's gonna happen with that because it's been stalled. There's an excavation company that's going on right next to where the city hall, or not city hall, the public services building is. You can't see it right here. But that's where this, public services building and the reservoir is right there, and there's this big lot. There's like some open space around Mackay Creek, but it's a floodplain.
Yeah.
And so there's not really a lot.
Okay.
There's this one over here on the corner that this area is kind of in limbo, especially this area right here. This property owner is trying to sell it. But
Is that
there's,
right by the railroad tracks there?
that's by the railroad tracks, but this is also a future county project for an intersection improvement at Glencoe.
Okay.
And so I do not know what kind of right of way they're trying to use out of that. So this area is kind of unknown. But other than that, there's like very little space. I mean, if someone wants to sell their 1 acre lot or whatever in town, they're probably not gonna sell it for a dog park or a park. I mean, they're gonna do it to subdivide into 5, 6 houses or something.
Okay.
I think anybody who studies it said ultimately, if we want some nice forest trails, we've gotta go north somehow. Right? When you go up towards the golf course, you've got some beautiful forested land, there's hills, there's everything, but again, that's down the line if we're somehow expanding, somehow gaining access to people's land, working with the golf course, but
That's nowhere near where our current borders are. So it's,
Pardon?
that's nowhere near our current borders. That's like a very long.
I mean, we'd have to talk to people and see what's feasible and what's not feasible, but that's where the nice land is. I've heard from property owners, there's already some hiking places up around there, but
Isn't that
Like
like a
Morningside out and
It's
stuff
not
like
like a
that.
total distance of North Plains away still, that we took that map. and
pardon?
We took the map of North Plains right now. And slapped it right next to each other, isn't the forest still farther than that?
It's a ways.
Yeah.
It's a ways away.
Too far away.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I mean,
That's,
the
that's
connectivity
almost,
doesn't.
that's more than twice
It's
as
not
far
long.
as big as North Plains is.
It doesn't make it.
So that's how
connected.
far out it is.
Yeah.
It won't come in for like another 60+ years.
It's a long ways away.
So does that place across from like Taco Bell, that property there, could that be required or no?
Hold on a second. Let me get back to where.
From Taco Bell, the stuff that we already own,
Yeah, like is it, could that potentially, that large space, I know you said it's commercial, maybe for a grocery store or whatever, may go in there. Could that ever be reused?
for a park,
Yeah, or
no,
a
it's
community
zoned.
center or something like that?
No, it's
It's
zoned
zoned
commercial. You wouldn't, I don't think
You
you
wouldn't
want
wanna
to park
take that
on that,
valuable commercial space that we
No.
need to draw,
not to mention
Because
all
that's
the
all we
traffic,
have
you don't wanna.
left for commercial.
Yeah.
unfortunately.
I mean, that was, property was bought for a specific purpose of putting a grocery store there and some other businesses, because we don't have any place else in town to
Yeah,
put any businesses, and we need the tax base.
yeah.
So, you mentioned that the UGB thing is dead. Is that all of it? Everything? They're not even gonna bring in like a park area?
I do not know what the latest is on
Because that
but
would
we
be
can't make.
extremely
Yeah,
unfortunate.
we can't make any future plans, and so it makes the master planning extremely difficult, not just for parks, but for transportation and water and all the infrastructure. It makes it difficult because we don't have that in place. So we kind of have to piecemeal things together right now, which is not a very good strategy for planning. But we have, like, the point is we don't have any land for a new park. And so.
That's what I'm saying.
And so we have all these kind of SDCs that are just sitting there until we do, or we can use it for a trail in a system that's not the best. And so it's like, well, what do we do? You know,
How
where
many
are our
years can it
priorities?
just sit there?
I think that's gonna be a bill question, but if we let the money just kind of sit in there in a high interest account, I don't know if we will get into, and
I know.
I think there might be a time limit. I know there is, like with the transportation bond, where we have a loan,
Mhm.
we have to spend it within a time period. But as far as just sitting there in a bank account, I think that would be more of a bill question on if we have a time limit on that.
Mhm.
But I think if it's just the SDCs in general, I don't think there is a time limit per se.
Sorry.
So
I mean,
think-
I was involved in the relook. The most interesting thing there related to parks was if we could ever bring the lake area in. The current lake out there is only about a half mile to 3/4 mile from Bryn Hill. So you'd have a walking trail that would take you out to the lake. The lake's a half mile around. You'd have a nice walking parks area. There's quite a bit of land there that could become, one of the goals is we want a large park. That could become the large park, but the way you get the park paid for is you allow housing to come in, because the housing is what pays for the park. So,
That was actually the plan as part of the UGB was to incorporate that in.
well, that's what I'm saying. That idea is the one that got the most
Yeah.
positive energy of all of them, because it's a nice piece of land. Houses were more appealing than industrial.
Did we ever figure out the water rights?
Pardon?
I'm still,
Figure out the water rights?
I'm still working on that. We have no water rights out there, but I'm still working on some solutions.
Well, I think this was a good part of the conversation, because it is what we're talking about with the master plan. And it goes to kind of reiterate the importance of, there's so much commotion about the UGB, but so many people are not realizing how we're closing ourselves off with the urban growth, not just in the build of commercial or homes, but just in general of our outdoor recreation component of our city, that we're basically either. in the
Which
low or
people
just
love
frozen.
being,
Yeah,
when they
exactly.
move out here, they want to be out here.
Right,
They want to enjoy
right.
the space. Or
SDCs can sit as long as they need to until a qualified project uses them.
So we're good on that.
that's good.
Like a rainy day fund.
The other one, though, that's a different conversation is if we do 20 more years of the Urban Renewal Agency, whether funds of that could be used, Urban Renewal Agency funds, my understanding from reading it, can be used sometimes for parks, things related to parks. And that fund could have another 20 million or so in it eventually.
Doesn't it have a sunset of?
Well,
Or
or
coming up on.
It's
coming
coming
up,
up.
and
It ends
it can also, it can only be used in certain areas that have been designated as.
It ends in 26, so it ends in a year and a half. And in theory, it could be next time you can reframe your boundaries for where you're gonna spend your money, and Jesse May,
And
for
they're
instance.
talking about that. They're
Jesse
looking
May
at
could be brought in,
Glencoe.
because some of the old neighborhood
They're
that's
not
already been built
looking at
up
Jesse May.
is not gonna be in it. So that's another potential cash source. But they would have to decide to do it for another 20 years, which is gonna be up to the Urban Renewal Agency.
But I believe if we were to put in a park, it would have to be in that same area though, too, which kind of goes back to the same issue that we have.
In which area?
Like in wherever area that they choose to be part of the urban renewal agency.
When we do another 20 years, though, we could change the boundaries.
But we still need to have an area like. to
That's
have
where
to
the
put a
park has to
The
go.
park has
There
to.
has to have,
In
there
that
has to
Outside
be
the boundaries.
space, there has to be space for it.
Correct.
We
Yes.
don't have.
Correct,
Yes.
Correct.
but Yeah.
Which we don't have internally, regardless.
No.
So,
I'm not-
yeah, they can expand the boundary, but the property still isn't there for a park.
Unless
Do
the
you see what
flood,
I'm
unless the
saying?
floodplain like changes greatly.
I'm not sure if that money could be used like on this building, for instance.
No,
No.
Not unless
The
this,
Urban Renewal Agency money cannot be used
no, because it's not included in the area that,
in another 20, we're gonna do another 20 years.
He's
I'm
talking about
saying
the
we
kids'
could bring in
oh,
this.
well, I mean, what you guys are looking at,
I can't speak to it. We
You
haven't
guys,
discussed it.
yeah, you guys have only had one URA meeting, but
Yeah.
in general, they're looking at where businesses are, that's where you want the urban renewal agency to expand, and so it would make sense for it to be Glencoe,
Well,
not.
Glencoe will definitely be in there, but
But this isn't business area.
They're trying to bring like revenue into the city. to
you're
give it-
trying to up
Yeah.
the level of the whole city. So in theory, that's why you can use it. I mean, I've read the document. You can use it for parks and things because it ups the level of the whole neighborhood, makes
but
it.
only in the area that's being taxed.
But we will redefine the boundaries in another year.
But why would they expand it here? Because
There's no business.
there's no
business.
business here.
Urban Renewal Agency isn't just on businesses. You're trying to
In our case, in this case, it really is. I mean, that they're looking at, what they're looking at downtown has businesses on the ground floor and apartments above.
Yes.
But what would they do with a space like this?
Urban Renewal Agency, when I read the whole document about them, says you can use those funds for things like parks. Because what you're trying to do is raise the whole level of a city, so everything matters because it
I
makes.
would imagine there's a limit to the amount of property that you can take, is there?
Based off your funding. maybe?
It's all about priorities and what council feels is a priority and what,
Yeah,
I mean.
Which both of it, economic development and community is both, so we'll have a big discussion.
Yeah, that's right.
I would
We'll-
say, right to the URA.
pardon?
I would say, bring that concern to the URA.
Yeah,
And right to include just, if that's what you want us to include.
Yeah, it's not a concern, it's just brainstorming to see what's feasible. My bottom line, I guess I'm getting at, to me, this Jesse May seems to be a really high priority for all of us, and how do we figure a creative way to get some money here to fix this up? So that it becomes kind of a shining star for the city instead of kind of a.
And generating money with the rent
yeah,
of the
so,
kitchen.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I
This
think we're all
could
on
be
the
a
same
nice
page.
facility.
well, it could be.
Yeah.
There was a design that was done, what, 8 years ago
Yeah.
to be able to do something like
It's
that?
beautiful.
Yeah, it was a beautiful
5
design.
million then.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was,
Yeah.
I still have the plan somewhere.
Yeah, it's on, you can find it online.
Exactly.
But I mean, that would be a discussion for the actual URA, and that's not something that I am like super privy about unless we're talking about the infrastructure improvements on that.
Yeah.
So that would be a total URA question.
I mean, the other thing, like Lori, you sent out that good thing for us on all those grants that are out there.
Oh, there's lots of grants.
That agency she told us about gives out 12 million a year to small cities
Did you sign up for it,
to,
to be on that board?
yeah, I'm thinking,
Are you thinking about it?
well, there's a lot of money there. I'm impressed. I mean, it's a good.
The LGGB grant system is a very good grant system, but I have to have a project in the works basically, in order to be able to apply for that.
When you.
So once we get a project rolling, then I apply for it. It's not like a grant that you have nothing, it's not necessarily a grant for the design of a project. You actually have to have the design and the plan ready to go. So that's the kind of grant
It
that.
seemed like it was the kind of thing, if we're gonna spend $1 million here. And we had the design and the project in the works, they perhaps would fund 400,000 or something. They never fund the whole thing, but
Potentially, but we'd have to put that in our budget to be able to
Yeah.
do that, yes.
Yeah, and it wouldn't be 1 million.
pardon?
It would probably be like 7 or 8 million.
No, I'm not saying, I'm not necessarily personally don't think we need to build a new building. You could do a lot of
We
stuff.
weren't. really-
It wasn't-
we
It
weren't-
wasn't a new
It
building.
was a remodel.
It was a remodel. It was not a new building.
Didn't you see that? Didn't you see the plans?
I came after
It
the,
was beautiful.
Yeah, stunning.
that's the problem. It's too nice.
No. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right, so good discussion. Anybody,
Do we wanna see if our guest has something they'd like to say?
I don't, I'm enjoying the process. Thank you for allowing me to be here. To me, the last UGB expansion was very big. I'm enjoying going back through and seeing what everybody wants, and let's move forward and let's have these conversations. And let's have our eyes wide open to whatever North Plains can become. So no, I'm just trying to educate and learn,
thank you.
no comment.
That's the most I've heard him talk in the almost 9 years I've been here. He's a quiet guy, but he's soaking it all in.
Trying to, and I appreciate all of your time. You guys are giving up a lot of time to be involved, so to all of you, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so board and staff comments. Does anybody on the board have any comments? No? No?
Did we decide what we wanted to do about legal parking here on Saturday mornings for the the bikers parking here and blowing out all the parking, so they can go cycling around?
I believe that we requested signage.
Well, and council agreed to it. You guys agreed, right? That
You say so.
Well, you guys talked about, because on weekends, the park, people that come to play in the
Yep.
park, there's no parking because all the bicyclists park there. And so there are places in town where they can park. They can park, next to Bertoni's, but, between that and they can park in the city parking lot that's behind Miss Kim's.
And they can park around the park.
And they can park around the park, exactly. So it's a matter of, getting the information out, getting signage, and I do believe that is on Bill's list to talk with Therese about, our communications person. It's not just that, oh, let's just put signs up. We have to, because I'm not sure who told them years ago, you guys can always park, I have an idea who it was, but.
Right, right.
But, you can't just cut that off.
And I'm not sure it's very enforceable in honesty, I mean.
Well,
because-
yeah, you don't know unless they've got a bike rack on their back of their car that they're bicyclists,
Catch
but
it, yeah.
I mean, I don't know who would be willing, but I was out last Saturday and I thought I'll just go talk to them and they're very nice.
Yeah.
The other thing I'm aware of is people that are into that, they have money. I mean, they have very expensive bikes. I said, what if we reached out to all of you to try to figure out a nice place where you want to gather? Would you guys ever want to have a bikers brunch when you're done? Eat at one of our establishments? So yeah, we'd be interested in something like that. I mean, to be honest, I think we're missing an opportunity when hundreds of people come here. But let's steer them where we want them. But if I'm this person that makes breakfast, I think we're missing a chance to reach out to them and because they're not unreasonable people. They need, when they first get there, they wouldn't mind maybe a cup of coffee, but they need water and a bathroom. Okay, we'll let you do that. Maybe they have a hit of coffee. Maybe they like shots because they want caffeine, but not a lot of moisture. But then some of them, they might say, yeah, lots of us would love to gather after and we'll prepay for our bikers brunch, whatever. I think there's an opportunity to actually somebody make a lot of money.
What you just described sounds like
Pardon?
what you just described sounds like the upper here in town, the pitching post.
yeah, they have groups that gather there on the weekends, right?
I've never seen the road bikers, but
Not
but
necessarily.
other
bikes.
groups,
But they have room for parking. We could maybe get some amenities over there to make it more appealing to park there. Breakfast, I know they serve breakfast during the weekend.
it could be any of those. There's several places that do that.
Yeah, the issue is parking in those parking lots, because
They have customers.
they just don't get enough parking. They get a very limited amount of parking for each space, each office space.
Which ones are we talking about?
All of them. I mean, they just get limited parking. It's like the bare minimum parking.
I mean, to be honest, I'm out every Saturday morning because a group of us run. It's never very crowded because they're pretty early. They take up sections, but I don't know if it was me and I knew they were gonna spend money when they first got there and then spend money when they got back. And presuming the parking lot still has quite a few empty spots.
Sounds like.
I mean,
something
it could be
Chamber of
good for
Commerce.
business. Pardon?
Sounds like
That
something for
sounds like,
Chamber of Commerce.
yeah, that should be a chamber.
It's it's an opportunity for somebody to use this in a positive way to make money.
It's our problem by making an opportunity. I think is what you're getting at, right, Tom?
Yeah, but again, we'd probably be steering them away from here, because here doesn't have any of those things, but I don't know if they would mind.
Yeah. Kind of limited on you don't have a community development director or a parks program coordinator right now to be able to help issue that in. And that would be a really good start to do stuff like that. Cause I know we're trying to do events like with Peak Chiropractic with their farmers market, their version of it that they have, and they have like parking issues even when they have that. But that's more of like a kind of that's a Chamber of Commerce kind of thing where they need to kind of visit that. From the public works and infrastructure, point of view, if we want them to come and have a place to park, That means I've got to do a lot of improvements, but curb, gutter, make it safe instead of people like driving off into, the ditch line, stuff like that. And like making places to park around the park in itself would be kind of an improvement in itself. But that's kind of an overall goal in the city is to make walkability and parkability and all of that all in one. And that includes like improving the downtown commercial street, corridor with more parking. But it's gonna take a lot of coordination here in the future.
Counselor Rennie?
I had two questions. One regarding the parking around Jesse Mays. I admit, I don't know if I've looked at the exact plans, but did we plan for some kind of parking around the sidewalks going in?
That's one of the ideas is that we are widening the road to be able to put curb and gutter and along with the storm improvements and there's water line improvements to be able to do that. That would actually allow for on-street parking right next to the park.
Excellent.
And so that will be the short-term solution to what we were talking about right now is, well, if we tell these people that they need to park someplace else, we need to give them a place to park. After the project is completed, they will have a place to park that is safe for not just them, but for people walking by.
They said they'd be fine with that.
My secondary comment is if we send them behind Kim's, I almost feel like we need to provide a.
We would, a porta potty,
Yeah.
yeah, and that, because the one, like this little lot between, when I
Yes,
say for
yes.
Tony's, there's a porta potty there, there's a bike station there with, all that stuff, and so, yes, if that decision is made, then yes, we would definitely put a porta potty back there.
I just didn't want to flood Kim's.
Yeah.
Is the green space, is the green space on commercial that has the porta potty and the water fountain? Right there by the,
That's technically not ours.
oh, it's not?
No.
Okay,
But everything that's in the right of way, we maintain, but it's technically not ours.
because I was wondering if that could be made into like a little parking area,
The
even to hold like 6 or 8 vehicles. Right,
space in between,
The sand and the.
Corrugated.
Place right by the
Oh, boy.
bridge, that
Gonzalez
that one
Corrugated.
little.
wait.
no,
Water
no,
fountain?
no, it's
No,
right.
we're talking about right,
on commercial
yeah, right
street.
across from the road, that big open spot that we usually have like the
Park with the
No,
one
no.
spigot.
No, right, it's
The
just.
gravel
past
section,
the gravel
water-
section, yeah,
that belongs to the guy that owns the
But then
giant
the farm
buildings.
shop,
yeah.
Right?
No, it's just past the water tank,
The
the
grand,
original water tank.
Okay.
wait, which one are we talking about?
The one on commercial on the south side, it's
Talking
like,
about another one.
it's like this.
Oh, you're talking about
Oh,
the park
right by the
down
water
there?
tank, the triangular part.
Little triangular area.
There's no parking down there.
But we
Could
could
make it.
can we make that into a parking area?
Cause it has a water fountain.
There's a water fountain and a porta potty there.
Yeah. What else? Nobody really.
I mean, I think in the whole scheme of things, I would try to bring the road bikers close to somewhere they're gonna spend money.
That's true.
Like the hitching post.
It's a block
Right away
away.
has room.
It's
Well,
1 block.
Pardon?
It's just 1 block away
from where?
The lower.
from Pilgrims and, I mean.
All
it's
the
just
commercial street
very-
businesses.
Okay.
If we're just trying to come up with pure spots for people to go, that's a great option, I think. But it is not as close to. the
I mean, what they've
businesses.
said to me, they want a bathroom with water and water, a
Yeah.
porta potty. They would pick a place. That's why they like Jesse May, 2 nice bathrooms and then running water.
Yeah, so that has a water fountain and a porta potty there.
They would want a porta potty, they pick somewhere else.
Yep. Right there. But I didn't know there was. a porta-
No, there's no porta potty right there.
Yes, I didn't think there was, I do know there was. a porta-
Oh, there used to be.
I think there was first.
We could make money.
No, I mean,
There's-
so a couple cars parked
I
there.
think about 6,
Unfortunately,
6 or
everything
7,
probably-
if you did,
Yeah, maybe.
like Kim's, you know.
Oh, I'm not sure there's enough space to pull in.
Well, we have to take the rocks and.
We'd have to put part of the parallel park. So,
It'd be worth a look.
Say,
That's, I think that's worth a look.
Yeah, I mean, it's just an idea.
Yeah. Idea, like, we could throw out ideas of plenty.
It
Because
definitely-
ideally, we would put sidewalks on this side of the road,
Um,
the north side.
well,
commercial, And have a track to run commercial boarded fit more.
Yeah.
That's what I know all of us moms have always wanted to be able to run with our babies and jogging strollers. Run safely down commercial, and then you'd have parking on the south side.
Well, if you look at the master plan for the trail system, I believe that triangular park, is like the ending point of a trail system that goes down this
Right
creek.
here.
And so like there could be, a paved trail system that goes behind there and also. Parking is there. I mean, that was kind of I think the original, my understanding.
Okay.
So there's, we can always try.
Ideas are fun.
Yeah.
And you can always just make a recommendation to whatever committees and or boards are, that would be best for.
Okay,
Yeah.
staff, if there's no other, board comments, staff? Anything from staff?
I have nothing new unless anyone has questions.
There was an idea floated, if it's not too much work. This whole tree project and the design, I think is well on its way, it's well thought through. If there would be a way to post the game plan you already have, right? And maybe put it on some kind of thing over here by the park. Because I was talking to some people, I think once you get over here and you see the plan for sidewalks and you realize those trees are in the power lines and they're old. And they're plum trees that are a giant mess. It kind of diffuses the whole situation. So the idea is post something over here and encourage people to come over on site and look at the plan, because I think it would get rid of a lot of the.
Have trees, make a.
It makes perfect sense. I was showing some people when I was over here, let me explain it to you, and they go, oh.
But we
Right.
have the little board over here.
Well, we have a media burst that's going out on that, and that, that's a decent idea to put something actually in person, or we could put something on a board out here with like QR code to what the project is.
That might be the best.
We have a board, but it's in a really awkward place. We just need to find a place to move it.
But once they come over here and see the stuff, you go, oh, I see.
It can almost be better just on that wall on the outside there in plain view.
But as far as what is going out there, we don't have a final plan. We're still waiting on the railroad right now, and so we're still waiting on some of that information.
Oh, I bet.
But
Yeah.
you know pretty much what you want to do around this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what they're mostly interested in.
But they're waiting to tie it all in together.
Yes.
Cause we gotta be able to
Yeah.
cross over. Okay, very good.
Okay, well, if there's nothing else,
Sorry, I'm just talking to myself.
if there's nothing else, I'll adjourn the meeting at 7:36.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.